All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Amy Izzo. Amy, welcome. You know what? We've had to adjust our timing on this a little bit, but like I shared with you, we are doing this in perfect timing. Welcome.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I have been looking forward to this. I know you and I were introduced by Kevin Hoover, and Kevin, I interviewed for the podcast a while back, and after doing so, and him having the experience that he had, he's like, Kevin, he's like, you have absolutely got to interview Amy for this podcast. She is such an amazing person, and I know you and he work together and stuff, and
Love Kevin.
I love Kevin too. Man, that guy has got such a big heart, and that their family has been through what a lot of people would view as just really difficult circumstances. But I'm going to tell you, they have done such an amazing job of causing so much good to come from that experience and from the battle that their son Baxley has gone through. Well, I mean, really, the whole family has gone through that together. But as a result, impacted so many other people's lives who have got to be along for that journey. And
they've taken the unimaginable and turned it into such impact for the world, such impact for so many people's lives.
Yes, absolutely. Amazing. And and that for me, and I know, for you too, Amy, impact is what it's all about. That's what inspires us, is that we want to make a bigger impact in the world, just using our gifts, our abilities, our talents. And in between Kevin introducing you and I and us actually having this conversation, I know we had one other conversation, but I've also been stalking you on social media and all that. Watch videos and I just gotta say, I absolutely love the way that you show up, and so I'm really excited. I just want to start by turning it over to you a little bit, and so that you can set a little bit of context and share your background, and talk about the work that you get to do, the people that you get to serve, what inspires you most about your work, and we'll just start there, Amy.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. So I'm Amy Izzo, and I am a real estate coach, and I'm a real estate practitioner in the Midwest. And I serve real estate agents and entrepreneurs by helping them to grow their business while not sacrificing themselves. And I put themselves first on purpose, without sacrificing themselves, their family, their friends, their relationships, and just running the business the way they want to run it, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, just running it the way they want to run it, not the way the gurus say they have to run it. So, and I run a pretty sizable business here in Northwest Indiana and Chicago myself at the same time. So I practice what I preach.
Yes.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
And
that's for sure.
I love seeing your videos. I remember seeing one. I think you were in your vehicle and you were in a parking lot somewhere or whatever, and you were just just so easygoing and so relaxed and talking about, and you were giving some insight. Hold on, I gotta take a drink here.
Sure.
I got something in my throat. But just sharing from your heart and sharing a little bit of insight. And you just like, and if you feel I might be able to help you, then just reach out. And I just thought, what? I mean, I was like, Amy's just like me, one of the lowest kind of low key, easy going, and no sales pitch. It's all about just make an invitation. And if the invitation feels right, then come on over. And if not, that's totally cool too.
It is.
And just like, I like Amy. And so
oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. But I mean, I guess that if I had a superpower, right, that's one of them, is but that's just who I am.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just who I am, right? I'm here to help if someone needs my help. So,
Yes.
and those that need to hear the message, well, they'll hear it.
That's
So
right. That's
hear
right.
it.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot in the last 3.5 years, more than that, but especially the last 3.5 years that really brought me to the way that I coach and the way that I work with people. It's really changed me as a human and really changed the way that I enter the world. I've always had a giving heart, and I would say I've been easygoing. But about 3.5 years ago, actually, I know the date.
Okay.
October 23rd of 2019, I fell asleep at the wheel in my vehicle on my way home from work. And nothing bad happened. Thank you to God. Nothing bad happened, except that I fell asleep at the wheel, and it was during a red light, and someone knocked on my window to tell me that the light was changing.
Wow.
Like they literally got out of their car, imagine that, at a stoplight and went, "Hi, the light is green and you need to drive now."
Wow.
And that was at baseline embarrassing, but it was more than that. It was dangerous. I mean, there's a lot of things that we could all imagine. And I just felt terrible. And what you don't know is I was over 400 pounds and I was exhausted and I was working 14 hours a day, most days, 6 to 7 days a week. And I had a pretty nice business. Like if you looked at my real estate business, I was just doing real estate. I was coaching a little bit at the time as well, but if I was just doing real estate, and if you looked at my business, you'd go, that's a pretty respectable business. You might not have known I was working 7 days a week, but I looked successful to a lot of people. But if you really looked at a photo of me, I looked exhausted, right? And sad, and a lot of things that I see now that I knew then, but I ignored. And I went that day when that happened, I went, I got to do something. I've got to do something. And I felt at the time, I didn't know what to do. And I said, well, maybe I could just do one small thing different and then I'll figure the rest out tomorrow, right? Later. So it's the silliest thing it's going to sound like, but I just decided that day I'm not going to drink soda anymore.
Okay.
So I just stopped and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I'll figure the rest out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Subsequently, the next day I was speaking at a speaking engagement I had been invited to a couple hundred agents. And no one knew, not even my husband, no one knew I fell asleep at the stoplight. Like no one knew that had happened. And I did what I needed to do. I packed my stuff and I drove to the speaking engagement. It was a few hours away. And I thought, I better spend the night because I'm tired. So I'll spend the night. So I booked a hotel last minute and I spent the night. And I spoke and it went really well. And one of my friends was on the panel and she was speaking as well. So I had a turn, she had a turn, and then we had some downtime together. And she said, I want to talk to you. And she said the words I had thought the day before. And she said, I'm afraid you're going to die.
Wow. Wow.
And I went, and it knocked the wind out of me because I had that same thought the day before. You know, I was very heavy. I was very exhausted. I fell asleep at the wheel. I was very embarrassed, full of shame. And then here I am speaking to agents about things I was an authority on, right? How to run these things in your business. And I was running them pretty well and sharing with them to try to help them. But yet I'm in this state personally, right? And so she, in the moment, had this conversation with me that I'm sure she didn't want to have.
Yeah.
And so we had this important conversation, and she said, what are you going to do about it? Let's do something today. What can we do right now today? So she held me accountable at the end of our conversation. And I booked a weight loss surgery right then for December.
Wow.
And so it was October to December. And that's what really got me started on this trajectory of change, which is what you see when you say, I see how you show up on social media. I show up a lot different today than just a very short, 3.5 years, not that long, a very short 3.5 years ago, because I've just really been able to, with a lot of help from a lot of people, change my life. And as I reflect back on the lessons of that, those are the lessons I use, not only in my life, but to help other agents and other entrepreneurs make these changes. Because how many stories do we know of not only realtors, but entrepreneurs working 6-7 days a week on the phone at the beach with their family, right? Taking 2 days out of their vacation to work, but I'm available the other 6 days with my family, right? And not doing the things for themselves first so that they can serve the people they want to serve better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if we fast forward, just since I learned that lesson, my business is 5x'd. I work less time than I ever worked. I ballroom dance 2 hours a day, every day, 5 days a week.
Wow.
I don't work Sundays. I work half a day on Saturday. I vacation several times a year. I am working less, making more, the healthiest I've ever been in my life. And I'm helping way more people, and I show up better. I would have told you I was a great realtor, a great coach, and I was. But man, I'm better because I'm better. I'm better for others. And that's really what it's about. Like, if I want to make an impact, and I do, I want to make the right kind of impact and the maximum impact I can make. I wasn't living up to my potential at 400 pounds, exhausted, working 7 days a week. And that might not be everybody's story, but somebody's got out there has something like that. You know? So yeah.
Wow.
So that's how I show up like I do. That's how you see what you see today.
Yeah. That is really inspiring, Amy. And, you just in sharing that, you give hope to a lot of other people too, and, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs who definitely feel, and you know what, when you shared what you did about, I work 2 days out of our family vacation, and I give them the other 6 days. I used to do that same exact thing. I used to do that, and I I wouldn't necessarily work the whole 2 days, but I'd work like 3 or 4 hours. And one of the places we like going is Maui. I specifically like going to Maui because of the time difference. I could get up way early in the morning, and it made me feel better to be able to get like 3 hours in before my family was even out of bed, So,
right, because they didn't feel the impact, but man, you did, because you had to get up 3 or 4 hours early. You felt it, right? And that's not fair either.
And I'll tell you now.
Yeah, but I get it. I've been there. I was that girl.
And when you said that, it hit really close to home, because I'm like, that used to be me too. And now it's not me any longer. When we go on vacation now, I am 100% there for my family 100% of the time. And it is such a difference.
It's such a difference.
difference.
And I don't know if you found this. I know you have kids. I have kids. I don't know if you found this, but so my kids now, my boys are 23, my daughter is 16. But when I was in corporate America for over 20 years before I started my real estate coaching business. And when I started it, I told my family, hey, I'm starting this because I'm going to be more flexible. I'm going to be available to you more. I'm going to be here more. I'm not going to be flying to Hong Kong on a whim and, going to all these places and only home on, weekends. And, that's not going to be it anymore. I'm not going to read bedtime stories on, FaceTime anymore. That's not going to happen, because that was all true for me in corporate America. Right. And, I was doing this just a couple of years and working the schedule, but I was picking up kids from school, and I was more present, but I wasn't present, as I was on this phone a lot, and so my children called me out and said, you're here. We see you, which we didn't see you before, but you're not here.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because I was visible, but I wasn't present. I was doing so many other things all the time when we're supposed to be together, and, don't have your phone at the table, but I do, because I'm a realtor, but I do, because no, that's not right. So, and they did it respectfully, but your kids will tell you.
Oh, yes, they will. Yes, they will. They will
Oh,
call you out.
I'm not keeping my commitments to them either.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
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 that's a whole
yeah.
different
I
life.
can definitely relate to that for sure. Well, okay. So now that we've got a little bit of context set here, we'll switch gears. I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Amy, I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around these most valuable relationships in your life.
Okay. So this was great. I knew that we were going to talk about this. So I had a lot of time to think about it. And I'm really glad to be invited to have this conversation because, and I was glad in the first place, but when I really sat down to prep and thought about, well, who is that person, right? Who am I going to talk about? I had this realization that at every season of my life, from the time I was about a child, right, 5 or 6 years old, and I had a tough home life. So um, I have had people placed just for me in my path that had they not been there in that season, I really would not have continued on a positive journey. I might have made some different, and if I didn't take that journey that I've been on so far, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. And so I really sat down and I'm like, wow, it's not one person. It's like 9. I mean, really, of all the hundreds and thousands of people we probably have all met and know, and maybe, we have a handful of really, really good, people in our lives. I've had these people, and some I'm still very engaged with, right? And some have passed away, right? And some, um, I thought, man, I need to get back in contact with that person. Might have been a teacher, that I was like, wow, I really remember the difference that person made. And I'll talk about the first one. So the first one is a woman, Debbie Crandall.
Yeah.
I still am in relationship with her today. Although we haven't over the years been able to see each other as much as we like, because our lives are just very different. When I was a teenager, I had a really, really tough home life. And she was a single mom and she was very successful in business, but she worked for a university and she was very successful in business. And I was her son's friend. I was, 12 years old and I was her son's friend, but she was very engaged with what he was doing. So she was very engaged with us. And she just took this interest in me and would take me with them and all their mother-son things, a lot of them. So we'd go to the pool together and we'd do all these things. And she would just always share with me. She was having her performance review and what that was about. I was a kid. I didn't know, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she would journal and she would always share with me her journaling. Right. And so there was these things that inspired me to know, well, one, I could be something, anything, right, other than maybe what I had thought at the time. A lot of my people in my life were, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they were in very service type roles where they just felt trapped and like they couldn't do other things. They didn't feel they could start businesses or work for businesses or get college degrees or, I didn't have those influences, but here she was. And she was like, she was doing it and she was a single mom and she was by herself and she owned a home. And so she just kind of showed me a different way. And I all of a sudden started to have different goals and started journaling. And so she was one of the first people that came to mind.
Okay.
And I'm still in a relationship with her, but I thought, I got to reach out to her because it's been a few months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got to talk to her because she's just always been like a really important figure, in my life.
Yeah.
So, and I've watched her go lots of trials and tribulations and just always persevere, so that's always been very inspiring.
Yeah.
And I could name others, but I will talk. There are three people in particular I do want us to talk about outside of
Okay.
Debbie,
All right.
that I literally would not be here without, that tie back to my October 23rd story, right?
Okay.
2019. And I met them all on social media.
Wow. Wow. Very
And
cool.
one introduced me to the other, introduced me to the other. So
Okay.
I think it very much fits in
Yeah, totally.
to what we're talking about, right? Because, and I love, what I love most about this is they don't have to be people in our backyard, right? They can be people across the country.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk first about my friend Gail Zintek.
Okay.
Now, Gail is amazing. And she is, she and I have been on a similar health journey, although we started in different ways. But I met her on social media because she believes in relationships like no one's business. So, and matter of fact, I have a card on my desk from Gail. Gail sends cards. She's a big figure in a company called Sent Out Cards, and she
Oh,
sends these
yeah.
cards. And cards are all about me, aren't they? My picture's all over them, right? And there's something
Nice.
personal inside. So, and I literally I didn't plan to have this on my desk. It just is here because that's how many cards I get from Gail, right? Gail's is a card sender. She's the paparazzi. And I met her online. She was talking about making meaningful impact to those people in your life, right? And she was talking about, taking their moments, these are a ballroom dance moment, taking their moments and putting them in a card and sending it to them just because, right? And why that's important in our life. And so that really attracted me to her, and we started to have conversation. But what I didn't know would happen is we would meet at a real estate conference a short time later, and that was around 2016. And then we would just stay engaged. And so we always just stay engaged. So she knew 400 plus pound Amy, right? And all the other things, good things, and challenging things too. She knew that person. And I hadn't told her when I had this happen in October of 2019. And I said, I'm going to have weight loss surgery and I'm going to then figure out my health. And I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't tell anybody. A couple of people knew, my husband knew, but I didn't really tell anybody. I just did it. So fast forward to April of 2020, and we're in this new pandemic that none of us ever knew about. And I'm on this health journey, and I'm posting pictures, but I'm not really talking about it, but I'm posting pictures of myself because that's just what I do. Like, here's what's going on with my family, but I look different. And Gail's my friend, and she calls me and she says, I want to have a conversation because you look amazing. And what's happening? Yeah. Well, the universe knows what to do. I really believe that. So because right at the time she had called, yes, I was doing well. I lost 75 pounds and it was visibly noticeable, but I was also plateaued and I had not really made all of the changes I needed to make, but I had made a lot of good ones. And I was struggling just when I get this, hey, we should have a conversation from Gail. And she doesn't know anything. So we have a conversation and she says, I'm on a health journey too, which I knew because Gail's a sharer, right? So she shares and shares. So I knew that. And she's like, let me tell you about my health journey and where she was at. And she said, I want you to meet this really important guy I know. And his name, this is my second one, is Steve Trzeciak. Okay. And she said, it's new. I've known Steve for a while. I've only been working with him a few weeks, but he's really making a difference in my health journey. And he's helping me shift. He's not focused on the nutrition. He's not focused on the exercise, Amy. He's focused on the who I have to become to do the things I want to do. And it's just a different conversation than anyone's ever had with me, in her 60 years of life at the time. And she said, I think where you are, you could benefit from meeting him. And I was like, okay, I'll look this guy up. And I look him up and he's this buff, built bodybuilder looking man. And I'm like, there's no way that he's going to want to talk to now 375 pound Amy. He's not going to be able to help me from across the country, but I love Gail. So I said, I trust you, Gail. And she's like, you told me what's happening and where you're at, and just give it a roll. So I call Steve. Well, she introduces me to Steve. And Steve and I have a conversation, quick 30-minute Zoom conversation. And he says, hey, just come listen to a call. I'm doing this call, Gail's in, and just come listen to a call. And I say, oh, okay, I'll listen to a call. And I listen to the call, fly on the wall, quietest Amy you could ever imagine. Could you imagine that, Kevin? Quiet in the background, not a word. And the whole call, I'm like, he's talking to me. He's talking to me. He's talking to me. He was talking about personal integrity. Not integrity, but personal integrity. Because most of us, we have integrity. I told you I would pick your kid up from school at 3:00. I'd be there at 2:45 and I would do it. But I'd be late to something of my own, or I'd skip that workout, right? Or I'd sacrifice that thing I wanted to do to help somebody else, right? And but personal integrity is doing the things you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, when nobody else is watching, when nobody else can know. And he kind of dug into that. And I was like, oh, this is why I got to be 400 pounds. This is why I'm plateaued. This is why I'm struggling, right? I know I need to find some kind of activity that's not sedentary. I know how to eat. We say we don't know, but we know. So this created this relationship now with Steve that has helped me lose all of this weight. After weight loss surgery helped with the first 75 pounds, but it didn't change the mental health. It didn't change the thought processes. It just was surgery.
Yeah.
That's all it was. That's all it is. And that very much is why those things fail for most people. High percentage of failure rate. People regain. I haven't regained anything this whole time. I'm just continuing to go down, which is what I want, right? To be healthier and healthier and healthier. And it's not even about the scale weight anymore, although I talk about that because it's visible, right? But it's not even about the scale weight anymore. It's just about, what else can I do? How can I be the healthiest human being possible? Mental health, physical health, relationships, financial. How can I be the healthiest human possible for me first? Yeah. And then take that and serve everybody else with it. My kids, my husband, my friends, my clients, right? How do we do that? And those two humans, if I had not met Gail on social media talking about send a card to people because you love them, just because, yeah. And then went, oh, right. And then she had not been willing to say, I see a visible change. What's going on? Right. And introduced me to Steve, who was like, I don't care if you had weight loss surgery, and I don't even want to talk to you about diet and nutrition. I mean, the whole time, now Steve and I are friends as well, but the whole time we worked together, you didn't tell me what to eat, not once. He's like, you know what to eat. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about all the other stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do that. And so, life changing. I learned about personal integrity. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
I learned about self-love. I didn't understand that either. Right. And that it's not selfish. I learned about standards and boundaries. We're allowed to have those standards for our life and boundaries.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I learned that when I was 46 years young. Right. I didn't know those things. And I wasn't teaching my children those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who wants to say that? Right. Who wants to say that? And so I literally don't know that I'd be alive, really, and healthy without these two people and their influence on me. I know I had to do the work. If Steve and Gail were here, they said, well, you did the work. Yes, I did the work. But if they weren't putting themselves out there, just being who they are,
yeah,
I would not be doing this work. I would not be sitting here having this conversation with you. I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so, but I can't miss one more. And this person. So because I met Steve and Gail on social media and they changed my life and we've become great friends. I was watching what they were doing, and they were doing really cool things all the time. And I've always loved to raise money to help others. I always loved to do that. I've done it in my community. I've done it on a national level, but I never did it in a way that moved my body because I never moved my body. It was sedentary, right? My life was work, 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 watch TV, sleep, work, 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 watch TV, sleep. I didn't even watch that much TV, but when I wasn't working, I was sitting, right? That's what I was doing. And so I changed this. I started moving, doing all these things. And I started asking myself, what else can I do? Right? What else can I do? And it started small. Like literally when I first started working out, it was 15 minutes a day. That was it. I was gonna walk. That was it. And I learned what you do every day is more important than what you do every so often, because walking 15 minutes a day, every single day, created someone that walked 30 minutes, walked an hour, started to walk and run, right? A little bit of jogging, started to get curious about 3Ks and 5Ks and 10Ks, started to lift some weights, right? Started to Zumba. And Gail and Steve they were bike riding to raise money for Hug Your People. Kevin Hoover, right? Yeah. Kevin Hoover is my third. So they are doing, so that this end of 2020, August timeframe, they're talking about how they are going to be riding bikes and raising money for Hug Your People. I didn't know Kevin. I didn't know the story. I didn't know Hug Your People. But I was like, I wonder if I could ride a bike. I hadn't ridden a bike 15 years, probably. I wonder if I could still ride a bike. So I was like, hey guys, I wonder if I could ride a bike. And they're like, do you have a bike? I'm like, I have a bike. Like, why don't you go try it? So, and then of course, Steve said, you don't have to ride a bike. You could walk, run, you could do the things you're already doing. What I was doing at the time is I was walking around my subdivision every day. And we have these roundabouts, okay? Where I don't know if you have roundabouts in your part of the country, but if you don't anywhere, okay, you just drive around them, right? And they get you around your subdivision. Well, our roundabouts have a little sidewalk that goes in a circle. And so I would walk as fast as I could around the subdivision, and I would play a game with myself. Every time I came to a roundabout, I would get on the roundabout, and I would run around the roundabout once or twice. And then I would get off the roundabout and I would walk. And that was my game. You walk as fast as you can, you run the roundabout, you walk, you run the roundabout. And I actually documented, took video, and I would send it to Steve and Gail. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. And I thought, well, I could probably ride a bike, but I could also run these roundabouts, and I could commit a portion of my sales, my business, to Hug Your People. And I could ask others to join me. I could do that. I was already putting it on social media, what I was doing. And I said, I could do that. This is a great story. This is a great family. I don't know them, but now I understand, the mission, and this is great. I want to help. So me on my health journey, I became very inspired to do other things and very curious because of Steve and Gail's impact on what I could do. And so then I said, I got to know about Kevin Hoover and Suzanne and Bax and the family. So I get to know them, and I'm like, I'm in, I'm going to do this. And I do it. I end up running, I think it was 350 miles in September. Wow. And I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000, raised a few $1,000s. Some of that was just everybody that closed the house with me in the month of September that year. Portion of that went to Hug Your People. That's how we did it. And I actually think that year he wasn't a 501(c), and it was Alex's lemonade stand, but it was the Baxley team. That's what it was. Now that we're talking about it. That first year. So we were all doing it for Alex's, and then Kevin became a 501(c), and we did it the next year for Hug Your People, right? Okay. And the next year, let's see, I don't know if it was the second or third year. I think it was last year, because Kevin makes it fun. So it's a contest. I think the last year my team actually raised the most funds. So wow. I think Gail won one year, and then I won the second year, because it's friendly competition. We raised the most funds, and I think I raised 14 or 15,000 last year. It was a lot. So I don't know. I might have the number wrong. I might have the number wrong, but it was a lot. It was a lot. But just riding my bike and moving my body. And so starting to get curious. So I get to know, I have to tell you, I even with Stephen Gale did, in honor of Hug Your People, we did a bike ride. So the first year I did the walk run, the next year we did a bike ride and we rode 330 miles in a day.
Wow.
I mean, I never did that in my life. I don't know that I want to do that again. I would for Hug Your People. I was hurt, but I did it. I finished. I was the last of our group, but I finished, so that was so it's this trajectory of what else can I do? So I meet Kevin and Kevin's a coach. And I'm like, hey, I'm a coach and I'm in real estate. He's been in real estate. So Kevin and I connect and we had a connection and we decide we're going to work together. And this is where I learn that I have 12 or 13 summers total with my children. And then they're gone. Right. And I know time is not infinite. I get it. But these are some of the lessons, right? Talking with Kevin, learning from Kevin. Time is not infinite, right? Time is precious. You have just a few summers left. My boys, when I met Kevin a few years ago, were 20. Caitlin was 13. So you have 5 summers left before she goes to college. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, someone needs to hear that message, that whose kid is 4 and 5, right? I'm just glad I heard it when I did. And I was like, what am I going to do with that? And it got me to continue this curiosity of, well, what else can I do? And what else do I want to do? And what have I always wanted to do that I never did? Because I forgot that I always wanted to dance. When I was 15, I wanted to dance.
Yeah.
And I made the dance team, worked really hard. And then I had to quit because I had adult responsibilities. And then I just lived life for the next, I don't know, however many years, 30 years plus. And I forgot. And I think too, I got so unhealthy. I thought, well, it's all I can do to run my business and take care of my family. I don't have time for me. And I certainly don't have time to pursue a hobby. I never had a hobby until I was 47 years young last year. I never had a hobby.
Wow.
And I was like, and he was like, don't you deserve a hobby? Don't you deserve to work the way you want to work? And I was like, man, I do. And I was so healthy. I'm like, I can do this. So, I mean, I don't know that I'd be ballroom dancing without that lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't know that I would have remembered that desire, and I would be ballroom dancing. And with my daughter's ballroom dancing with me now, and that was not the plan.
Yeah.
Really being intentional. My boys are older, but they still need you. And so I've really learned to be intentional with time with them too. It doesn't matter their age, let's take advantage of the go forward and as much time with them as possible. So making sure we can take vacations together, or we can have those family game nights, or we did vision boards together as a family. They of course they were like, why is she making us envision this for, but they got a lot out of it at the end. Right. So we started doing vision boarding as a family, and just really creating memories. I've always said the material things don't matter. What really matters is the experiences. And I still believe that, but creating the experiences for ourselves and the memories for each other, for ourselves, for our children, for our clients, for our family, for our friends. It's just so important and super possible. So I'm telling you, I think I said to you earlier, now that I didn't tell you who I was going to talk about, but the 3 people I'm going to talk about are like a team. They're like an Amy Izzo team, and they had no idea.
Yeah.
Because it just sort of came together in this amazing way. And now we're all great friends.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful to have these amazing people impact my life the way they have. I would not, if you had talked to me on October 25th of 2019, a few days after I said, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it this time, I would never have been able to tell you that I would be running the business I'm running, had all the experience I've had with my children, my family, and be serving people the way I'm serving them, and ballroom dancing I
Yeah.
would never have been able to tell you any of that.
Yeah.
I had no idea. This Amy I did not envision her in
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
I had no idea this was possible.
Wow. Wow. So I have one question. I mean, so, I mean, the purpose of this podcast right from the get-go has always been twofold. It's been to give entrepreneurs like you the opportunity to share your story and your experience around your most valuable relationships, and honor these relationships, and honor these people for the impact they've had on your life and on your business. And then on the other side, for the entrepreneurs who get the opportunity to hear these conversations. I just want to inspire them to place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their own lives. And you have definitely helped deliver on that today, Amy, in spades. What an amazing experience. I mean, I'm so grateful to Kevin for connecting us. I did not know the story. He did not tell me the story about you guys in advance. I did not know that. So I just think that is amazing, the way that you guys met.
He may not have the same perspective. He may not have the same perspective,
Maybe not. Maybe
He may
not.
not know. He may not know.
Well, you know what? It might be good for you to share this interview with him, and he might appreciate having that insight from you, because I know if I was him, it'd make me feel good, and I don't want to. I mean, so much of what you shared, it hit on such a personal level for me too. And I don't want to inject a bunch of my stuff into this, but what I do want to do is just ask you one question, because I really look at these relationships as that it allows us, we can do so much more together with like-minded people than any of us can possibly achieve on our own. And if you look at these relationships with, you mentioned Debbie, you mentioned Gail, you mentioned Steve, you mentioned Kevin, but if you look at these four relationships, I just want to hear about one experience really quick where it allowed you to have what you feel was just this big impact in the world, and hands down that would have never happened if not for your relationship with any one of these people that you've already talked about.
All right. So I think it's going to be Steve Trezick for the win. This one.
Okay.
Really, without Steve, I would not be making the impact I'm making on my clients. Right. Okay. I would not. I'm living the life that I'm telling people that they can live. I'm the example, right? That is not boastful. That is just real, right? And I've worked with too many people in the past that aren't a practitioner of what they share. Yeah. They're not living it. I'm living it. I have been at the lowest of the low for me, right? It may not be the lowest for someone else, but it was my low, right? The lowest of the low for me. And I am at what probably isn't my highest, but is my today highest of the highest, right? Today. And I know there's more potential. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't have Steve's influence. And even, the relationships he's also helped me build, but the influence of, it starts with you, and you got to work on you, yeah. Right? And the accountability around that, right? And around the, learning the personal integrity and learning about standards for life, and learning about how to recover from people pleasing, and learning about self-love and taking care of yourself first so that you can serve everyone else. I serve people so much better because I don't just tell them, they can see it. Yeah. And that's why I share the way I share. When people say to me all the time, you share everything on social media, and I don't, but I share a whole heck of a lot, and I share what's important, highs and lows, right? because I want to inspire someone to know that if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. If I can get to this place, and I know the sky is really the limit. And how many of us are not living up to our full potential?
Yeah.
I was one, not.
Yeah.
So, and wasn't thinking about it in that way, but it's just the truth. So, I am making a much bigger impact in the world because of the influence Steve has had in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the accountability. I mean, really, accountability is love. It really is. To have someone that cares look at you and say, you're in your own way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's the path to get out of your own way, but you got to do the work. I'm here, but here's the path.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big deal. And so if I do that for one person, to me, that's a huge impact. As one person that is better off. And I have luckily more than one person that I've worked with, that I know that I'm making an impact like that. And that's what I want to do. I just want to pay it forward because it was granted to me. I want to pay it forward to others.
And I want to point out too, we get to work with, you get to work with the people that you get to work with, but how many other lives are actually impacted because of that? The frontline people that we work with, they have spouses, they have children, all of those lives are improved because of the work we do. They have people that they serve and that they work with who have spouses and children who are now better served and have a better experience, and the people that we serve make a bigger impact because of the role that we hold in their lives. I mean, and it just the true ripple effect of what we do, we never know. But that's why I love answering that question, because it kind of starts like really pointing out like, wow, the ripple effect of what we do can be really, really big. And all those people will never know that we're there, but we know that we're there. And I like pointing that out to people because it really,
I love that. That's a great point. You're right. And I think we overlook that.
Oh, we do. Totally. We do it all the time.
The other thing you made me think about, all the people that are watching that never reach out.
That's right.
They're just quietly watching, but they're making the changes the way they need to make them. Wow. And we'll never know.
Yeah.
Never know. But I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't ever need to know.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
I know it's happening. I don't need to know when and to who.
That's right. That's right. It's like, that what inspires me is just knowing that I'm making my best impact in this world. Mm-hmm. And I want to make the biggest and the best impact that I can make. I do not care that I ever get credit or acknowledged for it. Just me knowing it, that I'm doing my best. That's all I need. That's all I want. I know, and that alone inspires me to just keep going and keep becoming the best version of me that I can possibly become,
And I hope when I'm gone from this world that I've got a solid social media profile where my kids really can go back and go, wow, she did the thing, right? She did all the things that she wanted to do. She did them with integrity. And she just lived life out loud, and she helped others along the way. That's why I put all this stuff out there that to help others. And I want to leave that legacy for especially my kids, and then anyone else that cares that it can help. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Amy, for anybody listening to this is just going, oh my gosh, Kev, I love Amy as much as you do. How can they find out more about you and what you're doing?
Best place to get me is on Facebook or Instagram. So just Amy Izzo on Facebook. That's the best place to get me. That's where you find me. Send me a message, hit me up.
Awesome. Well, Amy,
or Instagram, I'm there too.
Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today and just share from your heart. And any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
No, just take care of you. Because when you take care of you, it changes everything. It changes everything. So yeah, I think that's what I would leave it with. And thank you. I'm so honored. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my
I
pleasure.
can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you.
You are so welcome, Amy.